I'm Brooke Knippa. Welcome to my Airstream gallery. I'm the owner and founder of AP Curiosities. So I actually named my company Alice Paul originally, which was named for my grandmother. She lived to be 101. She was always making things. Her hands, I never saw them not moving. She was always knitting a washcloth or crocheting a blanket, and she taught me how to make a lot of things. So that was the inspiration for the name of my company. So I kept the AP for Alice Paul as an homage to her, and then I took Curiosities because I had jewelry and I had animal ceramics. Got my giraffe bowl, I've got my hanging sloth pots there, got some of these with fringe, got my high fire wire in there, and then I take and I put fiber around the edges there. They're surprisingly light. For people always think like ceramic earrings would be heavy, but they're actually really light. And then I started doing little animal jewelry. So this is my great horned owl, so he's a little necklace. And then from there I just started putting the animals on my pottery. So I've got these little tiny animals that have landed on my pot. So it's kind of been a fun way of combining all the little things I make. It's just sort of been an evolution. So it's really fun because one idea leads to another, and it's just a rabbit hole of ideas. So I electroplate as well. So electroplating is a process of essentially preserving something in copper. So that's actually that's a real honeybee. You put conductive paint over it and it plates it in copper. So this piece I'll just bring out here because I did it one day and I was like, I must be crazy. I spent hours making this thing. It's a little duck jar, and then when you open it up, there's all the little baby duck feet on the bottom of it. I do a lot of different techniques in pottery. All my vases are hand built. So I essentially make a pinch pot, which is what I did on the bottom. The top half is all coil built. So I just roll out these coils and then I add it to the inside like that. I just pinch it off and then I just smooth it into the piece. I find coiling a really good way of making it pretty much any shape you want. You don't have to make it round. You can make it rectangular. You can get, smooth. You can see the pinches. It gives that handmade texture. This paddling helps compress the clay and it helps it prevent it from cracking. It also kind of just helps with my form. So if I wanted, a flatter base, I could put it down and just kind of tap it, so that would make the base a little bit more angular. And then if I wanted to make it more of a rounded base, I could just kind of tap that right on the bottom there. So, and then it helps me kind of bring in my walls a little bit too, up there. This is actually a porcelain stoneware. So it's a white clay. It'll fire, you can see on the bottom of that, it'll fire like an off-white kind of color. The white clay gives you a really nice canvas, so it just helps your glazes show, where if you had a brown clay, it'll change. It's like painting on a black canvas versus a white canvas. It'll really change the glazes a lot. Like this is a mug I made, and so that's the brown clay. So it just sort of changes the color of your glaze a lot. I do a lot of carving, so these are my little carving tools here. I'll take and I can carve out the little divots on it. So I'll do that over the whole piece. And then a lot of my little animals, those are all made out of porcelain, and then I attach them with a wire. It's a high fire wire, so it's fired in the piece. And that's where I use a lot of my clay shapers like this, and I'll take little balls of clay like this, and I'll make my little, I don't have an owl out here, but I do a lot of owls. So I'll kind of just make a little base form, and then I start adding little wings and stuff. And then I can come in with my shaper and I just sort of smooth everything out, so you get these nice little details like that. And that's how I made the little fox on there. So I made a body, and then I made a tinier ball and attached his head, and then I'll put the wire in on the side there and then attach it to the piece, and then it gets all fired together. So I'll take one of these that's got brown clay in it, that's fine, and I'll just carve out my hole here. And then from there, I just pinch a little bit on the, so this is gonna be the top of my vase. And then I can attach it directly onto there. And then this is where I smooth these pieces together. And then you can't see it, but I'll go in and I'll do it on the inside too. And then a little bit more paddling. Sometimes I might work on a few at a time. And then at this point, I would probably just let it set up a little bit. And then depending what animal I'm putting on there, I might kind of push that in a little bit. So like if I were to put a fox, I'd make a nice little hollow. I'm gonna make a coil pot. So what I do is I take and, it's no different than like rolling out a pie crust. There's a lot of things that are pretty funny about baking and pottery that are very similar. Everything gets baked in an oven, right? Get rolled out like this. This helps compress it. I'm throwing it down. It's sort of like maybe a pizza. And then this, I'll take a metal rib here. And this is also compressing, so I'm just really smoothing the clay. Now I will flip it over onto my plaster bat here, just a piece of drywall. So now I'm going to cut the shape out, and I just want a circle, so I'm just going to take my needle tool. It's easier when it's on that because then I can turn it. So then I just take and do a nice turn like that, and then I have a nice round bottom. So now I'm just going to start building up my walls. So I'm just going to take and drag that clay up. It took me such a long time to figure it out. They say though, if you want to learn, just make 100 of something. So when you're connecting clay, you really want the clay to be at the same stage of consistency. So if I wanted to even out the top, I'll take my fancy little, it's like a non-sharp X-Acto knife. This was usually how I would finish my pieces if I wanted a level edge. And then I'll take my sponge here and, I could smooth out the edges. These I use in an electric kiln. It's called oxidation, just because there's oxygen in there when you're firing it. This big vase here was made in a wood kiln. The wood, when it's burning, it actually creates its own glaze. So it deposits the ash on the piece, which then melts and turns into a kind of a glass. I'll put little creatures in the side of them, like the owls or something. It's like a dog bowl. Yep, so from here I'll let it dry. If I wanted to, I could keep going. I could make it like do a crazy curve thing or whatever. But yeah, I'll let this dry, and then I would carve into it or add my little animal into there. Guess I could add a little black lab in there or something. So these are all thrown on the wheel. So that's my little owl family mug, and there's a single owl. Here's my hedgehog family with some mushrooms, and then this one's the little raccoon. I feel like I ended up where I am because of my family, which is weird to say because my family's in Colorado, but they taught me the importance of loving where you live and your community and your neighbors, and importance of having art in your life. I think that's one thing that has really struck me about Bowdoinham. It's just been amazing how much art and community there is here. I moved out to Maine thinking I was only going to be here for a few years, and it's ended up becoming my home.